the trend is it comes and goes. You know, we'll have a few, and then we'll have one big hit, and then they'll do some more, and then they go fall out of favor again. So, but I want to do more of them while I can still ride a horse.
And Barry, one thing that struck me about Monte Walsh, having seen it, to get all so many prominent actors, and we're talking some legendary names here in terms of the business. You could talk about 10 actors that could all be leading actors in their own right. To get them all together in terms of this one movie is something a truly remarkable feat. Was that due to the vision that Tom Selleck was able to sell, that everyone that bought into this project?
Well, I think I'm not sure about what the other people thought, but the Monte Walsh was a book based on it was a book by Jack Schaefer, who also wrote Shane, and it follows a man's life through from the time he's about 15 when he starts on the trail and ends up when he's an old man. You know, it ends up with his death. This movie only takes a very small part of his life, but it's I've always been fascinated by that particular book, you know, because it covers the cowboy era from the beginning until the 1920s when it was fading away.
And Barry, this is a story you mentioned back in Wyoming in 1892. What intrigues me about this concept of watching a movie is there's a nice flow to this movie. There's a nice steady sort of pace. It's not all guns roaring, cowboy Indians straight off the block. We really get to know these characters and get to develop around them and get a grasp for where they come from, where they live from, as I say. And we really get to feel our way into the movie in terms of this.
That's
There's a
right.
nice,
That's right.
great pacing to it.
Yes, it is. It's a very well paced movie. It was directed by the man who directed Lonesome Dove.
Okay.
He was from Australia. He's a wonderful director, and it is Simon Winsor's his name, and he's just a delight to work with. I've worked with him in three separate projects, but he's a great one for directing westerns. He knows horses and cattle, and he's the real thing.
Mm. And Barry, you shot this above in Alberta, Canada, in terms of that. All this movie was shot in Canada as well. You had to sort of the studios up there, and really, it almost feels like you're back in mid America back in '80s. Such was the stunning effects and sort of scenery in terms of. How long did you spend above in Calgary, Canada, shooting this? Were you a good 8 weeks?
For this particular movie, we were there for I believe I was there for 4 to 5 weeks. I think, if I remember right, I think I was there from. It was 4 to 5 weeks. It was in the fall, late summer, early fall, and we were in the mountains you see in the background were the Canadian Rockies. They're beautiful mountains, and it's a beautiful area. I love Canada and that part of Canada in British Columbia.
And we get to see great interaction between you and Monty, played by Tom Selleck. You obviously played the Bob, the storekeeper, and you're the center of all what's happening in terms of the town, which was the case, I suppose, back in the 1800s of America. The store was probably one of the areas in terms of where all interactions, where all any sort of scenarios were happening or developing, they were coming out around the store area.
That's where all the people gathered, yeah, and they'd exchange news and gossip, and and so they knew all the. That's the way they kept up with their neighbors, meeting at the store or at the post office.
And
This store, in the movie, I'm swatting flies. I've got, I don't know how many flies you have in Ireland, but they've got a lot of flies in Canada. So I'm swat flies, and one of the crew members said if a real fly comes in, don't swat it because we've got the animal rights people here.
yeah,
I said, well, keep them out of the store because if I see a real fly, I'm going to swat it. We had a lot of little plastic flies on the shelf there.
yeah. And I suppose, Barry, in terms of working with so many talented actors, I know myself, some of the names here, Rex Ling, big fan of, William Devane, a big fan of as well. This was such a good casting. It felt like everyone fitted into the role perfectly in terms of this movie. There was never a sort of scenario where you felt someone was out of place.
Oh, no, no. They're almost all the people are friends of mine. I did Shakespeare with Bill Devane in New York years ago. So we had a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah. And in terms of, you mentioned there about an intriguing concept, Barry, about the Westerns. It's almost, dare I say, it's once in a blue moon now, probably once every 4 to 5 years that we get a real good Western. I suppose back in the 80s and the 90s, the industry was overloaded with them in terms of we had so many. Do you think maybe there's going to be a renaissance, dare I say, in the near future of this genre in terms of,
Well, it seems to go in cycles. There seems to be a suddenly there'll be a lot of them, and then there won't be any for a while. I'm trying to put together a movie right now that would it'd be a modern day Western, but there'll be some horses involved and all that. But it's a modern day Western, kind of bringing it up to where the young people now could identify with the people. When I used to go to the Western movies, there were still cowboys around and all that. And now it's you see a Western set in the 1800s. That'd be like me going to the movies when I was a kid watching the Revolutionary War. And that was way kind of people wearing wigs and things. And we couldn't identify with that, but we could identify with the cowboys of the 1800s. Now we tend to identify people from our youth, from the I don't know, the mid 20th century.
Yeah. I suppose, Barry, before we came on air, we had a sort of quick chat, and you mentioned it's a busy times for yourself, and dare I say, you're going to be locking up in a hit show involving Sylvester Stallone in the near future?
It's called Tulsa King, and it's about a New York gangster that gets sent to Oklahoma, and he's got to fight the gangs there. So it's a drama, but it's also got a lot of comedy in it. So it's a good show.
Mm.
It's become a hit over here. I don't think it's probably not over there yet, but it'll be there.
Oh, it's very much there. I spoke to Neil McDonough, who played one of the bad guys in Tulsa King in season
Oh,
2. So
good.
yeah. So it's very much a hit show here in Ireland as well. So we're going to be looking forward to seeing you on our TV screens. And it's busy times for you, Barry. You have other projects going on as well?
Yes, I've put together a one-man show. I talk about my career and my childhood and just I cover my life up to the movie part, and then we have an intermission. Then we have question and answer. Usually that covers the movies, the question and answer period from the audience. And it's a fun show. I try to keep it light and humorous. And I'd like to take it over to Ireland. I'd love to do it over there.
Yeah, we'd be delighted to have you, Barry. No doubt the Tree Arena in Dublin. It's hosted so many big names like Steve Martin, Mr. Short as well. He's Steve Martin's short comedy act. It is holding Dave Chappelle. It's holding so many big names. I'm sure such a show would be more than welcome.
Well, if I could come over there and do it, I'd love it. If we could arrange that. So we'll try. I'm gonna talk to my manager and see if we can arrange something like that.
Yeah, the Tree Arena in Dublin, Ireland. That's the name of it. That's the big event place in Dublin. It's got 40, 50,000 capacity, indoor capacity.
Woo!
So great platform.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. And Barry, in terms of bringing you back before we close, Monte Walsh, for all our audience, for all our listeners now tuning in and looking into trying to find a real classic, good movie to watch and maybe a good Western. This was nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award back as well when it was released. Why do you think if they haven't heard it, why they should sit down and watch Monte Walsh? And when they do, Barry Corbin, what's in store for them? What's in store for them when they watch Monte Walsh for the first time?
Well, just watch the movie. Watch it for the story. As you said, it's paced very well, and it covers a good part of the book. You've got this man who's outlived his time, and he can't really adjust to the 20th